is go ahead and introduce our first person to present this evening. Excuse me. So Sarah Hutton, co-owner of Village Books, take it away.
Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you for that. I'm so excited to be doing this. It's very weird to be doing it virtually, I gotta say. But it's one of the highlight of the years to really reach out and share with people when we really love a book, and to hopefully spice up your holiday shopping list or your personal reading list. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is a fiction book called On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. And this book has been out for a little bit, but I just read it this summer, and it is really breathtaking. And we had the honor of seeing him in person back when we had in-person events at our annual convention called Winter Institute. And he shared a really beautiful thought about booksellers, and I would like to share that with you. And he said, online retailers with their algorithms can only show you where you've been, can only give you the calcified mirror of your past. In a bookstore, you get a human being who is also a map maker of possibility. As booksellers, you are practicing, to my mind, one of our species' oldest arts, the art of fostering, sharing, and shepherding our most vital stories into the future. Which to me is just breathtaking. I know, I'm a little verklempt too, right? So that kind of gives you a bit of a glimpse into how he writes. He's a poet first, and that just comes through loud and clear. This is a story that is highly autobiographical, but it is a fiction novel. And he is telling the story of Little Dog, which is the name that his grandmother gives him, because if he is named after something ugly, that means that the bad things will pass over him and he will be safe to walk on this earth. And so Little Dog is blessed to have a grandmother and a mother, and that's about it for his family tree, which he realizes when he's in elementary school. And their story comes from some of the horrors of the Vietnam War, but then also just being a young gay man in America and his experiences sort of reconciling these two different parts of his past. So, or part of his past and then his future. So this language is truly breathtaking, and it is truly gorgeous. So On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is one of my picks. And I am going to pass it on to Kelly.
Hi, everybody.
Oh.
Hold on.
No. Okay, good. We're on
okay. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. Thank you. So my first pick, it just came out not too long ago, but it's Hamnet. If anyone can see that. Is it backwards? Anyway, Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And the author, she's actually just won the 2020 Women's Prize for Fiction. She's out of England. And so this is the story. It's 1580 in England. There's a plague going on. So that kind of sounds familiar. And this is the story of Agnes, or Anne, and she's at home with 3 children while her husband's busy being a playwright in London. And so she's having to be at home and dealing with 3 children during a plague. And one of the children becomes ill with the disease, and they soon lose him. And that's little Hamnet, which is a twin. So Shakespeare and Anne had twins, and their little boy that they lost was Hamnet. Now, it's not a big surprise in the book because they really did lose a son. He's buried in the same cemetery as Shakespeare. But this is kind of the story, the fictitious story of how this woman had to deal with all of this as a single mom during this time, and what she did, and how she was going to get her husband to come home and help take care of everything. And it was beautifully written. I flew through it pretty darn fast, and that's pretty much it. I don't want to give much away, but very good book.
I'm gonna second that. Yeah. I'm going to second that.
Okay. If there's anything else you want to say about it, I just...
yeah, no, everything you said, yes, I highly recommend that one. Yep. I'm sorry to cut you off, Paul. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, after reading that, we went on to watch All Is True about Shakespeare after he leaves London. And
with Kenneth Branagh
yeah,
as Shakespeare. They did a lot of work.
I see a thumbs up from Sharon.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful depiction, and again, talks about Hamnet.
And it really helped to have read this before seeing that movie, but both really well done. Yeah.
Right. My pick is Greenwood. This came out a bit ago, and it came out earlier this year or later last year.
It was going to be our last Chuck and Nut radio hour before we shut down. We were going to interview him.
This is going to be in March of last year, I think, or
we'll do it maybe
April. But anyway, we had to cancel, and Kelly had read this book and recommended it highly. And of course, in preparation for that, I read this book because of, I'm going to add this to my pandemic sleepers list of books that you might not have discovered while the stores were closed down. This is one of those books. It's, if anybody's read Overstory and loves books about trees, then you'll love this. It's multi-generational and also multi-generational family saga, and also multi-generational with trees. It goes a bit in the future where trees are scarce, and it goes back in the past, like the rings of a tree. You're going back in time in this family saga, and I'd like to say it's like Rutherford, but it's not as dense as Rutherford. It's so readable and interesting, and it goes back into different difficult periods in our past, and each of these characters still lives with me, and I want to find out you find out where a lot of them went, and a lot of the questions are answered. But this was just an amazing book and extremely well written, and like layers of an onion, again, layers and layers, like layers in rings of a tree. It just kept unfolding, and it's such a rich read, and one that you can just immerse yourself in. And yeah, and he lives up in Canada. He lives in Victoria, BC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's Greenwood by Michael Christie. This is my favorite book of the year.
Nice. All right. My next one is also probably somewhat appropriate for a pandemic read. It's called Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. And this was longlisted for the Booker Award, I believe, or National Book Award, one of the two. And I believe this is his debut. It is a contemporary novel about a family who splurges on basically an Airbnb in upstate New York. And they are, let's just say, not the most lovable family, right? So it's Amanda and Clay and their two teenagers, Archie and Rose. And they are, they're all caught up in their own neuroses one way or another, we'll just say. And they are, leaving it all for a week and unplugging and trying to learn to enjoy each other's company again, which is super awesome, except a massive power outage for some reason hits the entire, as best they can guess, eastern part of the United States. And they're just hanging out happily. They still have power for some reason, and they're just hanging out. And then all of a sudden there's like knock, knock, knock on the door. And it's the owners of the house, who are George and Ruth, and they are extraordinarily wealthy. And they are, the family who is visiting is white, and the owners of the house are Black. And so they basically say, we have come from New York City where there's no power, and we need to reclaim our home. So can you leave, but maybe not leave because it's also dangerous, and who knows why there's a massive power outage on the entire eastern seaboard. And so what this becomes is one of those like creepy locked room mysteries. And it's not gory one bit. Like, I'm a gigantic wuss when it comes to that. And it's more spooky and atmospheric rather than gory at all. So and you don't know why things are happening in the way that they're happening. And meanwhile, it's this really interesting meditation on assumptions about race and family and relationships. So, and the friends that we can make when we need to make friends in weird ways. So that is Leave the World Behind.
Hey, Sarah, who's the author of that one? Ruman?
Alam?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, me. Okay, so my next one, I think this came out in September, October, can't quite remember, but still in hardcover. It's The Exiles by Christine Baker Klein. She also wrote The Orphan Train, which was very popular. A lot of people read that. This one is about a girl. She's a girl still, Evangeline, and she is working in a home in I think London. She's working in a home, and she meets the son of the people that she's working for, and she gets pregnant, and a piece of jewelry goes missing, and so she's on her way to Newgate Prison in London, and she finds out she's pregnant, and then she's guilty, and she heads off to Australia, because that is where we send people in England at the time to live out their days. So this is a story about her and a bunch of other women that were they didn't do anything really bad. Maybe they stole some bread, maybe they stole a candle. I don't, who knows, to survive. And now they're being exiled out to Australia. The boat ride, I can't remember how many months and months and months out on this boat. Hundreds of women, quite a few pregnant, and how they deal with that boat ride, and then how they deal with life in Australia as all of these poor women. And they have to keep checking in with the prison once they get there, and they just have a hard life all over again. But it was so beautifully written, and it's a struggle, and it's based on true facts that they sent people to Australia. So what else do I have about it? Oh yeah, there was another young gal, Hazel, who learns midwifery. So she became very popular. She was really a help on the boat, but they had to deal with all the sailors and everything else, and the diseases and everything like that. Very good book. Maybe not an upper, but it was very well written. So, but anyone who writes Orphan Train, of course, you're not going to go for an upper on the next one. So, very good.
I'm going to shift gears and have something a little more fantastical. And if anybody who knows the kind of books I like to read, I like this world, but something with like fantastic elements in what I read. I was very excited to see Susanna Clark come up with her newest book, Piranesi. If you're familiar with her, she wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And that is a hefty tome. That is one to get lost in. That's another one of my very favorite books. So I was excited to see this come out. And strangely, I was disappointed that it wasn't as thick, though. Because her writing is just so gorgeous that I look forward to immersing myself in her books. This is about a young man named Piranesi, it's his journals about an infinite mansion that he's wandering around and documenting all of the statues, and it's such an infinite mansion that there's an ocean underneath. On the lower levels, and there are tides that he's documenting and keeping track of everything. And you're trying to figure out what is the deal with this infinite mansion with all these really amazing statues that are just intricate, and her descriptions bring these statues to life. So it's a mystery who Piranesi is and why he's wandering around, and who's this other person who comes in once a week and talks to him about experiments that he's wants Piranesi to help him with. The answer is something I could not have conceived of, and the way she pieces this together through his journals and through his discoveries, it's an exercise in memory and discovery and a glimpse beyond this veil of the world.
Oh.
Enjoy.
That's becoming like a staff favorite, isn't it? That Laura at work was raving to me about that book. And
Yeah,
she was a big fan of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I don't know if other people on staff have read it, but I've heard Laura talking about that one a lot
and
too.
we got
So
in about a dozen signed copies a few days ago, and I think we have about 4 copies left.
oh,
Signed.
nice.
So
Cool.
keep an eye out.
Cool.
Did
Yes.
you get one?
Did I get a
I,
signed
I
copy?
saw a little signed bookmark
I
sticking out of
know.
it.
But where's the signature?
There's not actually a signature on that.
We just have a signed bookmark in there.
Gypped.
Well, that's rude.
That would be so mean.
double check.
Oh my gosh, you need to return that book.
Double check that it's signed.
Yeah.
Dang.
Great. Signed. Psych.
You want me to sign it?
Yeah, it didn't say signed by
Thank
who.
you, Sarah.
Dang.
Oh my goodness. I am going to switch gears a little bit and feature one of my nonfiction selections. I've found myself really kind of looking at true stories and looking at how, you know, either people's real lived lives or problems that they faced, or, you know, things that we count on sort of came to be and the problems therein. So one of the ones that really captured my attention this summer is If Then by Jill Lepore. And she's done several other history books. These Truths is the one that came out last year. And she also did The Secret History of Wonder Woman, which is awesome. So this is a story of a company called Simulmatics, and the subtitle is How the Simulmatics Corporation Invented the Future, which is a very dry and boring sounding subtitle. But it's one of those things where you don't realize the effect that this company has had in all of these different areas that we take for granted right now. So it's a company that began with computing in the 1950s, and they were hired to try to predict the 1952 presidential election. And they succeeded so well, but they didn't want to share that information on television, even though there was a big like pretend computer in the CBS studio with blinking lights that was meant to represent, you know, the goings on of the room-sized computer. But it predicted it completely accurately, and it did it very quickly, but it was projected to be such a landslide that they thought that there was something wrong with the data. And so they were like, oh, just joking. But it gave sort of proof of concept to let us try and predict these things, and let us try and put all of these very tricky social questions into an if-then capacity. So if A, then B. And it has implications for choices that the administrations have made basically for the last 70 years. And it is sort of crucial to the way that we think about polls and asking questions and verifying data, and how that it can be fundamentally flawed from the beginning. So again, not the lightest of reads, but if you have a history buff on your list, this is an absolutely rip-roaring read, even though it may not look like it, I promise you. I know computer punch cards does not scream rip roaring, I understand, but it is truly fascinating. Also, I think shortlisted for the Booker. She is a great writer on a sentence level basis too. So that is If Then by Jill Lepore.
I have a question, Sarah.
Yes.
Does it go to the modern era? Because I know there's been a lot of debate about the polls and the predictability of them.
It doesn't go to 2020, but it does touch on 2016 a little bit. So it is quite recent. It's also, she is kind of amazing because, okay, so the book itself is no slouch, right? but I don't know if you can tell. So this side is the book. That's all the footnotes and research that she did. It's like 60 pages of
Oh my
footnotes.
gosh.
Oh, I thought that
So
was reversed. I thought that was the book and that's all the footnotes. Okay.
other way around. So yeah, she has crossed those T's and dotted those I's for sure. Yeah, there's that.
Okay, so next. Okay, I don't know how many of you have read Cold Millions yet. Nope. Jess Walters. He's from Spokane, so he's a local guy. He was actually on the news about 2 weeks ago. They did a little segment, and he was on that. But so he's a Spokane guy, and he's written quite a few books. He's a great, fun guy. He's a very sweet man. He's been to the store a few times, but this is his latest one. This is about, so this is back in, I don't know, 20s, I think, like that. And set in Spokane, actually.
Oh my gosh, we're in the 20s again.
Oh my gosh. This is a story of the Dolan brothers, Ray and Gig. And it's just about these two young guys. You know, the world is changing pretty darn fast, you know, with trains and with everything else. Life is moving quickly and more quickly. And the brothers are like, they're very young. They don't have parents. So they kind of are learning things on their own. They get mixed up in bad situations. Again, one finds himself in jail. I don't really like jail books. I don't know why I have two in a row, but there it is. And one gets to know Ursula the Great, the vaudeville singer who gets on stage with a bobcat and things like that. So he's got a lot of comedy relief in it, but he also, there's a 19-year-old feminist suffragist. I don't know why I can never say that. And she's like the hero of the story. She's going to be the mom to all of these guys in this book who just need a little bit of help. And she's the 19-year-old. So you're learning a lot about history in the story and then the tenderness between the brothers. So this book was also our Buzzworthy book a couple of weeks ago. So Buzzworthy is something we've started. Now that you can get drinks to go, which is a kind of a new fabulous thing we have not done yet, but we should. And at Evolve, you can get once a week, we pick a book and Evolve makes a drink to go with that book. So a couple of weeks ago, this was the one, and it was a root beer sassafras, root beer float that was out of this world.
It was delicious. I just have to say, it was delicious.
Pretty amazing. They make the most amazing concoctions in their drinks. But so that's just some things that every week. We have the Obama book came out this week. So Evolve is making a Hawaiian drink. So that's going to be needful with all this rain and dark skies. It's a good Hawaiian drink.
So you can grab Obama's book and bip up there to Evolve and get a cocktail to go.
Or we'll bring it all out to you.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I love the idea of pairing a drink with books. Since we can't, Chef Christie used to do a whole meal paired with a book, and it'll be wonderful when we can do that again. But she is so creative, and just being inspired by a book and then making a drink out of it. It's just fun. It's a fun idea, I think.
Well, we've had to be very creative these last few months.
Yes,
so that is
creativity is the name of the game right now,
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Yeah. Well, speaking of post-apocalyptic novels, I've got a book, World Ending Fire is not a post-apocalyptic novel.
Thank you, Paul.
It sounds like it is because of the title, but it's not. Has anybody read Wendell Berry before? Raise your hand if you have. Yes.
I was going to say, Susan.
Yeah.
You must have.
Yeah. So anybody who has heard one of my book talks has probably heard me talk about Jayber Crow. It's one of my all-time favorite books. And we just hosted a virtual book group recently where Kelly and I co-hosted that. And knowing that was one of my favorite novels, I've been waiting for Kelly to read it and give her stamp of approval because it was going to be a deal breaker if she didn't. So, and now that we're married, that'd be kind of late and messy. So I was really glad that she enjoyed it as much as I did, if not more.
Not to mention a little tricky for me too, by the way. So
Since the three of us are sort of married in a weird way.
So World Ending Fire came out, I think it was earlier this year or last year. It's his book of essays, and his essays read as well as his fiction. And just like with Jayber Crow, teaches you through storytelling how to be a better person and a better citizen of the world. His essays do as well. And this is an insight into his own life. And so if you've read his fiction, I've been curious how much the character of Jayber Crow it would be similar to Wendell Berry. I always speculated that it was a lot, and it's a lot closer than I expected. And so he talks about his life. He also just talks about the world around him and his place in the world and our place in the world. So it's, yeah, his essays are just beautiful, and his reading, I can just get into him like a warm bath, hot bath, whatever. Bad metaphor, I'm sorry. But The World Ending Fire by Wendell Berry, the essential Wendell Berry. And actually the reason this came to mind to me, I had seen it, but for some reason, I think I had a big stack of books, so I wasn't diving into it right away. But a customer asked us about, because of the big anti-Amazon campaign that we've been doing, he was talking about our place in the book industry and talking about Amazon. And we talked about this book, and he said that this changed his worldview, and he's values community so much more because of reading this book and his place in it. So it changed his life, he said, and so I hope that it will do the same for others. I think you guys already value community, but you can tell other people who don't, maybe that they can read this book.
I don't know how he can write so deeply and so, one with the world, but with humor at the same exact time. It's an amazing writer.
Yeah, he went off to New York as a young man to be a great writer, and found that being in that world was the path that they expected for people who wanted to be great writers. That's where you have to be. You have to be in New York. And he made the decision to go back to his small town and be a writer there, and looking closer at the world that he's in and being more mindful about it, rather than feeling like, oh, I got to be in bright lights, big city to be a great writer. And I think it's served him well.
I did it.
Yeah.
So Kelly, did you like Jayber Crow? I
did.
Okay.
Phew, right? No, it was very, very good. Yeah.
Good.
I'd like to read it. There's other books about some of the same characters in that town that's in Jayber Crow, and I'd really like to read those too.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, Paul, I'm gonna save you from your metaphor self here, because I was thinking about how to explain this book, which is called On Swift Horses by Shannon. I think it's Puffle, but I'm not sure.
That's sweet.
I know. And I kept thinking about sliding into a bath, because it is all about the language with this one. You fall into this world, and you are taken into this 1950s desert. It takes place in Southern California and in Las Vegas, which is a place close to my heart. And it is, I realize I have a few 1950s things going on tonight. It's a story about a woman named Muriel who becomes a young wife to a gentleman named Lee. And Lee and his brother Julius are, just kind of go with the flow kind of dudes. And Muriel finds them interesting, but also, like, I guess if I'm going to leave Kansas, I might as well hitch my wagon to somebody. So she picks Lee. And they end up going to Southern California, and Julius decides, well, I'm going to go to Las Vegas because that's where you can make the money. And so he becomes sort of an early security expert. So he's literally crawling in the ceilings above the casino floor, looking down at the tables to try and catch card cheats and chip thieves and doing that business, he meets Henry and they fall in love. And so it's this really, really atmospheric is the only way to describe it. They're talking about some of the nuclear tests that are happening in Las Vegas at the time, and how people would go up to the tops of the roofs of the hotels, of the casinos, and watch the mushroom clouds come into the landscape. And it's like, as somebody living now, you know how horrific this is and what impact it's going to have. But they're also watching, just because, you know, that's what you do, is you watch spectacle when you're in Nevada. That's what you do. So but her language is something that I was not expecting to fall in love with, and it is just evocative in the best way. So that is on Swift Horses.
Susan, I saw you two exchanging glances during part of what Sarah was saying. Did that resonate with you?
I was just saying, I saw one of those tests when I was a little kid in Reno in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And then another one of my sister-in-law grew up in Ely, Nevada, and they actually were pretty close to them too, in a kind of a very disconcerting way when you realize afterwards
Well, they were
effects.
close to the downwind fallout zone. Yeah, Karen, our sister-in-law. Yeah. Reno's a ways away. It was pretty, distant from, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really weird because I grew up in Las Vegas, and one of the things that you do, just kind of like other classes, if you live in New York, might go to Niagara Falls, or you might go see the Golden Gate Bridge. We went to the Yucca Mountain nuclear test site facility as field trip. And that's where they just, they bury the nuclear waste, and that's where you go on a field trip. So it's one of those things that I never thought was weird until I left Nevada, and I was like, wait, other people don't do this apparently. So okay, that's fine.
I read about that place on TripAdvisor. It gets glowing reviews.
Oh,
Wow,
we
made it.
We knew it was coming.
35 minutes.
We couldn't go an hour.
We knew it was coming.
Has radiant prose, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Sarah, I was curious how to pronounce the author's last name. I love this website, howtopronounce.com.
What did they say?
People.
Pupil.
Piffle.
Pupil.
It sounds like something from Ghost Hunters.
I think it's pupil.
Okay. I will go with that.
But you have to
I'm
say
sure
it with a
Puffle
robot.
is not it. Awesome. All right, Kelly, rescue us from ourselves.
Oh, I like this. Sharon says, I think I'm happier that my class trips were to
Yeah.
New York City
No
and the
kidding.
UN and
Yeah.
Broadway shows. Yeah, I was going to say mine was to like Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia. I think I like that a little better.
I think our field trip took
I'm
us
so
to
sorry.
the live production of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, that's just what you did.
What?
No, it was my high school drama.
Gosh.
Oh, drama's a little different.
I don't think they knew what they were getting into.
Yeah.
And they told us when after the show, they got on the bus and said, don't tell your parents about this.
No, I thought your parents chaperoned that.
No, that was the live production.
Oh. Anyway.
We digress.
Whose turn is it?
Kelly, I think.
Yeah. So
I don't even know.
talking about where
Okay.
you grow up. So my next book isn't out yet, but it will be out in February. And it's Kristen Hanna's new book. So Kristen Hanna, The Four Winds. So we all love Kristen. This front page has all the books that she's written. I mean, that's unbelievable. It's an entire line of books that she's written. So local author again. So this one I really enjoyed reading because this is set in 1934. So a lot of my books are in the 30s. 1934 Texas, and we've got the Depression and we've got the Dust Bowl. And this is the story of Elsa, and Elsa has got two kids. She's living on a farm with her in-laws, and there's just dust. There's no dirt. There's no rain. Of course, we've got the Dust Bowl. My dad lived in Kansas. Same thing happened to them. They were immigrants. They wound up in Kansas, wound up in the Dust Bowl, wound up during all the same exact things. And they did just like lots of people did. And what this book portrays is they get in their car with just enough gasoline to get them to California. And so they're set up in I think it's a make-believe town. I really tried to look up the town that's in here, but it's near Fresno. And that's where my dad wound up. And they picked grapes. And they tried to pick grapes in this book, but it just tells about the immigrant life of this single mom trying to raise her 2 kids, trying to feed them on whatever lard they could find or anything like that. And then there's all of the stories, the backstories that we don't really think about, because the migrant workers from Mexico came up. It was a perfect situation for them. They could come up, they could pick fruits, vegetables, cotton, and then go home for the winter. And it was working out just fine until everybody came from the Midwest and took those jobs. And now all of a sudden, the Mexican migrant workers were bad people, and we needed to keep them away so that the Midwest people could try to get their jobs. But then the farms got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what happens when farms get big and there's not enough work, and then you've got a lot of hungry people? So chaos ensues, and there's a lot of labor issues. And so she works through all of that in this book, and it's a hefty one too, and that's going to be coming out in February, I believe. But it was really good. It was like I said, it was close to my heart. I heard a lot about all of this stuff when I lived in the San Joaquin Valley. I live right next to a cotton field, and right between a cotton field and a vineyard. And so I could see it and hear the workers every single day, and heard some of their strife back in the 70s. So this is a good one that's going to be coming up.
Seems like that'd be a good pairing for, or along with Tim Egan's book, The Worst Hard Time.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And what a strange world. Right after this, Kelly and I are going to go onto another Zoom meeting with Kristen Hanna to talk with her
about the
this
book. So she's really trying to push it right now. So yeah, on sale February 9th.
And she said she wants to do an event with us. So
Fantastic.
stay tuned for an event with her, because that we certainly want her to do that.
For sure.
We do have a Chuck and a Radio Hour interview with her from many years ago, and we have a podcast for our Chuck and a Radio Hour now. So that one is not uploaded onto the podcast, but if you do podcasts, Chuck and a Radio Hour, Village Books, you can keyword search either of those, and you'll come up with our podcast. And every week we're releasing our newest shows, working backwards, and our oldest shows, working forward. So you can actually hear some of the first episodes that came out in 2007.
And then the newest one. So you can hear the 3 of us joking around for, an hour. Like, again, lucky.
It's funny, the jokes have not gotten better after 13 years.
You mean it's not like wine or cheese where they get better with age?
No, there's not even wine to make it better, but
But they do get cheesier.
There it is. Another one.
I had to throw up that softball for you.
So stop your whining. Hey, sorry. I enjoy myself more than anybody else.
Oh boy.
So this one is a really...
We've lost Kelly.
This one is a really easy read because there are no words. There are no words to describe it either. So I'm done. This is called the Antiquarian Sticker Book. And I picked this because we're heading into the holidays. And when this came out, I was apoplectic with pleasure because I love antiquarian illustrations.
It's true.
And I cannot get enough of them. And I can't turn the page to them. Butterflies and Egypt and people Frenching on park benches. It's, but they're just amazing illustrations, and I love vintage illustrations. And additionally, you can pull them out and put them on things. So this is we showed this to our daughter Madeline, and I had a feeling she would like it, and she went as apoplectic as me. She just loved it. So it's 1,000 exquisite Victorian stickers, and they just are really, really lovely. And you can leave them in the book and look at them because you love the artwork, or you can pull out the letters and put them on different things. So it's just
No, it's a really pretty book. It's a really
That's
pretty
so
book.
pretty. Can you hold it up like close to the screen? Like I want to see the front cover.
Sorry.
Oh, that is gorgeous. Wow.
So
I
it,
am moving
it
very
is
fast.
Madeline's book, but I don't know if she's ever going to use the stickers because they are so pretty. But I bet you she will eventually.
It's not her book for much longer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they just really are lovely. Oh, and
Oh,
the
there's like the sea life ones are really cool.
yeah, there's a jellyfish illustration, which I can't believe I'm not
Here, let me
opening
see if I
to
can
it.
find it. Oh, there it is.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. That's a whole sticker.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So anyone, any age, I think.
Yeah,
Love that.
it's a gift for someone or a gift for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, we are at 5:47. So do the three of you want to quickly do, if you had to pick one last pick to recommend to everybody, and then we can open it up for kind of a more of a dialogue, and maybe there's some folks in the audience who have some things they want to recommend to us. So do you guys want to do a speed round of one last book?
Sure.
Yep,
Okay.
we can do it.
Sarah, go.
All right. So if you need a brain break, Mystery, Bluebird by Attica Locke. It's good, right? It's so good.
I haven't read that one, but I love Attica Locke, so I'm excited to read that one.
They are awesome. So the first one is Bluebird, and the second one is called Heaven, My Home. And they are related, but you don't really need to read them in order. They are about a gentleman named Darren Matthews, and he is a Black Texas Ranger, which in East Texas is a bit of a fraught situation. So he has all of the respect due to the badge, but he is also a Black man in a very racialized area. And so when there is a case where there is a double murder of a Black lawyer from Chicago and a white local waitress, he is called in to investigate. And it's really all of these tensions and all of these things that you don't even know are really bubbling beneath the surface. They just start coming up and informing the case, and all these little pieces of the mystery start coming together. And it's a good read. Again, not super gory because I'm not that kind of girl, but it's just a really interesting, more really region and place driven mystery. So those are super great. All right, Kelly.
Really fast. Okay, I got two really fast. This is kind of an older book, but Susan Breland, Lizette's List. I like anything that she has written, and this book is very, very, very good. It's set in the war, but it's about Pissarro and Cezanne and their art. I like this one.
She wrote Girl in Hyacinth Blue.
Yes, which is one of my favorites. The other one that all of us have read is Rough House, and Tina is a bookseller down there. Sarah's got hers up. Tina is a bookseller down in Oregon, and she's the president of the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association. She's brilliant, and I used to see her in the hallways when we go to things, and I'd be like, oh, I don't really know her, but okay. But then I read this, and I was like fascinated by her now. It's her memoir, and she grew up in a really crappy situation. And so, but she writes about it so beautifully. It's heart-wrenching. You have to be ready for that part of it. But it's set right here, Clallam Bay, out on the peninsula. There's a lot of logging and there's a lot of drinking going on out there. And it's a really hard place to have little kids. This was a great, great book. So that's my speed. Done.
Woo! I'm going to experiment with something really quick for my speed. One is I'm going to try. Oh, you disabled screen sharing. Okay, never mind. I don't have the cover, but I've got It's The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. She wrote The Night Circus, and this is out in paperback a couple of months ago. And again, this is one of those books to lose yourself in, and it's about the world behind this world, underneath this world, a world of creativity that feeds the soul of the books that we read. But it's an actual world, a world that you can dive into.
And we don't have it because we listen to it on Libro FM.
Yes. And so, yeah, and it's a wonderful reader. So if
You should be
listen
able to
it-
share your screen now if you want to try.
Oh, good. I'll try
I
to do that
think.
real quick,
Give it
just
a
so you can
try.
see the cover.
Is it working?
There it is. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern.
I
So,
liked it.
Yeah.
It was good.
And there's a lot that they say about it. It just keeps going. And I'm not going to say all that because that's my quick pick. Okay. And we're back, hopefully. Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Okay. So how can I unshare the screen now? Can you turn that
I
off?
think
Claire?
if
You
you
just turn it off.
Stop sharing at the top of the
Stop
screen,
share.
you see stop
There
share.
it is. Excellent. Yay.
Hooray!
My
And
other quick-
I'm gonna second that. That's a great book. It's so magical. And honestly, I mean, this is not going to be a popular opinion for a lot of people, but I preferred that to The Night Circus. I
agree.
thought it was a better book, and
I did
I was so
enjoy
much
Night
more
Circus.
engaged.
I felt like Night Circus was a lot of frosting and not a lot of cake. And this
Yes.
one I felt like had some cake.
Yeah, it was very good. Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
well
and the other
done, you
quick
three.
book-
Oh, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
Quick
one
pick.
more. Wait,
Quick
one
pick,
more, Claire.
52 women.
Oh, that
I
one's
have to give a
important.
plug for 52 women. This is our latest Chuck and Nut edition. If you haven't heard about it, we've been promoting the heck out of it because this is a wonderful project from the League of Women Voters. It's 52 women, one for each week of the year. This year, celebrating 100 years of women getting the vote. It profiles 52 great women in Whatcom County, strong women. And one of the great messages I think about this book is that with all this focus on the national political scene, it's extremely important to remember that the biggest change that you can make and the most empowering change that you can make is here on a local level. And from the founders of the Normal College, the founder of the Normal College was turned into Western, to Kelly Linville, the woman mayor. It goes from the past 100 years of great women and empowering for the difference you can make here in our great community. So 52 women, read their profiles. That's all.
Okay, so now I encourage everybody to, if you want to put your screen onto gallery view so you can see everybody, if you want to unmute yourselves, if you have questions or if you have recommendations you yourself would like to make, now is the time. Please just go right ahead.
Yeah, we love getting your recommendations.
Sharon looks like she's going to be painting soon over there. Sharon Fisher, you've got your paint chips on the wall. Nice.
Well,
No, it's good.
Love doing that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I could.
Oh,
Sharon?
Sharon Ensslin, yes. What would you like to say?
I've recently read 2 books by Kristen Harmel, and they're a little reminiscent of Nightingale, Kristen Hanna.
Okay.
One was The Winemaker's Wife, and
Yep.
one was The Lost Names, and they're World War II in France. And she has a couple more that I hope to read. But they're pretty
I read part of Winemaker's Wife, and that one was very
interesting
good. Yes,
history.
very similar.
What's the author's name?
Kristen Harmel, Harmel.
Thank you.
The names are even familiar. I mean, similar. The authors.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any other recommendations or questions about oh, Susan.
Susan.
Yes, I read a biography. Well, it's Stephen Hawking, a memoir, and it was written by somebody who had worked with him closely and co-authored 2 of his books with him. And it's just, and I had a better sense of who Stephen Hawking was as a person. It was really interesting. And that, in fact, he pointed out that he wasn't actually a very spectacular student before he got his diagnosis of ALS. And And when he only thought he had a few years left, he really got serious and kind of but also his kind of humor comes through in it. So yeah, it's a memoir of his time with him. And
Yeah, it's a different author, but
Melodinow, Melodinow or something like that. But
another physicist but also a science writer.
Well, that's fantastic. I'd be curious about that. That'd be good to read. Looking it up. Oh yeah.
Oh, a memoir of physics, of friendship in physics, Leonard Mlodinow. Yeah.
Sounds Russian.
Is that it? Yeah, good.
So one of the best books that I've read recently, enjoyed, was Girl, Woman, Other. And it's takes place in London, and it's all these different stories of different Black women, all with different gender issues, whether it be that they're lesbians or they're trans, and how they kind of come together, but they're also Black people from all over the world. They're not sort of just all, the same. And it was very, very, I really liked it. It was good.
Girl, Woman, Other. Great.
It's so great to hear what other people are reading.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Speaking of hearing other recommendations, were any of you able to see the literacy breakfast with Nancy Pearl and her recommendations?
Susan.
Yeah, Susan, you did. Yeah, so I believe that was recorded. Is that right, Claire?
Yes, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can watch almost all of our events on our past events on our YouTube channel. I'm actually going to find the link to that right now. But yes, Nancy's event is available for anyone to watch. I'm trying to find the link to it right now so I can put it in the chat. But yeah, her recommendations are great, and you can find her recommendations on our on the front page of our website, villagebooks.com too.
This is the first time I think we've collected them, recorded the video of her recommendations so you can hear her firsthand, and B, collected them all on our website so you can get to them, see the list easily.
So
this has forced us into a lot of interesting activity things.
Could you hear?
No.
I opened up the video on another window and it started playing, and so I could hear the video starting. Sorry, of the literacy breakfast.
Didn't hear it.
Okay, good. Well, I put the link to that event in the chat. So that link that is there in the chat is directly to the YouTube recording of the literacy breakfast, and she did make some fabulous recommendations.
Oh man.
Yeah, I didn't hear the video, Claire, but I heard you drop the F-bomb when that happened.
She did not.
Very possible. So we only have about 1 minute left. So I think that means that we get to raise a glass and say cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to
we hope to make this a tradition. So if you enjoyed it, tell your friends, and we're going to try to do it again next month. Cheers.
Yes. So happy reading to everybody. And owners, do you have any final words?
I just appreciate everybody that's still, trying to, coming to all of our events and supporting us. I just really appreciate it.
We wouldn't be here without you.
No. No.
All right. And with that, I think we will say good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.